Hi there. Welcome to Retirement Your Way. And I would love to welcome my gorgeous co host, Jaclyn. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Debbie. I feel like we've missed a few weeks. So how
Yeah,
are
we
you doing?
did.
Catch us up.
I'm doing really well. I'm managing the heat, which, a lot of the United States, actually a lot of the world is dealing with
Yes.
right now. But I don't do humidity well. So today is
Mhm.
rather hot. It's adding an extra 10 degrees to how it feels. So I'm enjoying the air conditioning.
Yes, yes. Well, and I mean, here we're dealing with a lot of the wildfire
Snow.
smoke.
Hmm.
Yeah. Are you guys have any of that?
Not right now. I mean, Smoky Mountains tend to be, it can often look overcast just because of, we're a
Hmm.
temperate rainforest. So
The Smoky Mountains?
it can look smoky when it actually isn't smoke. So it hasn't hit us yet.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that it drifts, like east and off the East Coast, before
Yes.
it hits us. But yeah, the northern part of the United States has been in my prayers because I know it's intense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it's tough because it's like you want to go spend summer outside,
Yeah.
but we also deal with the humidity up here
Yes.
too, so it's like you get the and I every year it's smoky. I mean every
Yeah.
year we have issues with this, so I don't understand why they can't just figure out how to build something to prevent this, but whatever.
Well, there are solutions that you know I will. I'll bite my tongue on this. There are some options. They can control it to an extent. So
Yes.
we'll just pray that they start doing that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm excited about this topic
I am too.
because, you and I have talked a little bit in our personal lives. And I think what you said was just a reminder to choose joy. And that is your
Yes.
theme as a person, as, kind of our podcast, as everything that you do, Debbie. It's choosing joy and how to
Yes.
do that. And I think it's way easier said than done.
It is.
But especially for your retirement, how do you do that? I mean, where do we
Yeah.
start with choosing joy in retirement?
Well, I have wonderful news because it's not as complicated as it sounds.
Okay, so it is, easy done than said.
It is more easily done than said. One of the first things I do want to point out is there's a difference in joy and happiness. Yeah, there are a lot
Mm.
of things that can make you happy. I think happiness is kind of a temporary emotion.
Mhm,
Joy tends to be how you approach life.
mm,
And while we don't often have control over the circumstances or what occurs in our life, we do have options on how we deal with it. And, for example, if there is a bad driver on the road, you have several options. You can kind of slow down and get out of their way, or you can let your emotions take control and you can fully engage in that road rage.
Okay, I have to
Yeah.
be honest here. Sometimes my emotions get the best of me,
Well,
but
I agree. That's why I started listening to Christian music. So I get a little assistance with not letting the road rage take control of it. But you do have control how you react to situations.
Mhm,
And so that's kind of how I approached the whole topic this morning. And I've been tossing about what I wanted to talk about for several days now and just wasn't getting a real clear answer. And yesterday I kind of thought about, okay, I choose joy because I have a sign in my house that says I choose
mhm.
joy. I don't. It's in a room that I don't often go into, so it's not like I have a daily reminder, but it is in my house. And then this morning, within 5 minutes, I choose joy popped up. One was a Facebook memory of when I purchased
Aw.
the sign, and I went, "Oh, that's kind of ironic." And then I was listening to another podcast this morning, and they mentioned I choose joy, and I went, "Well, there's my there's my theme for today." So,
Wow.
yeah, I had a little assistance with with the universe helping me choose today's topic, and it's one that I really believe in, and I think it can apply to all of our lives, not just retirement.
Mhm. Well, so designing your retirement, I know, we make connections, I guess, from the podcast to kind of the emotional aspect of retirement and
Yes.
really having goals. I mean, is that kind of what we're going to be talking about today?
That is definitely part of it. And people just have misconceptions often of what retirement is going to look like, or they
Mhm.
think they have no control over it, or that it's just kind of on cruise control and it designs itself. And I would not recommend that. I think we need to have a say in what our retirement looks like. We had a say in our finances and how we were going to save for retirement. So,
Mhm.
what we do with that has, I think you have a say in it. And so
Mhm.
I would like people to kind of step up and actually design your retirement. I mean, the name of this is Retirement Your Way. It's not a one
Yeah.
size fits all. So, one of the first things I need to do for you to do is to shift your mindset. So, it goes from being career driven
Mm.
or, monetary driven
Yeah.
to a purpose driven life. Because in retirement, everyone needs a purpose. Far too often, I see people that are not content in retirement because they have no purpose. They're just kind of wandering meanderously around and letting life dictate what is going to happen to them. And I think if you have a purpose, you know, that kind of sets the tone for everything. So the first thing that you have to do is change your mindset. So
Mm.
we go from being career driven to objective driven to a purpose driven. You need to decide what your new purpose in life is.
Mhm.
So the first thing you need to do is kind of shift your definition of happiness,
Mm.
because often your happiness is a tangible career achievement, or you have material gains, or your kids have made it to a college, or you've got the house that you want. Those are material you know achievements that
Yes.
often define your
Tangible.
happiness. They're
Mhm.
very tangible. You put your hands on them typically. And retirement changes. So often
Mhm.
you no longer have those tangible achievements. You no longer have things that you need to purchase in order to make you feel like
Mhm.
you've accomplished something. And often in retirement, people want to simplify their life. So they're downsizing. They're getting smaller homes. They're getting less complicated lives. They're certainly not going out and buying all the bric-a-brac that you
Mhm.
buy. When you're younger, you're not accumulating wardrobes because your change, your lifestyle
Or just
changes and things.
accumulating junk.
Okay. Yes, you're correct. And it is very difficult for a lot of people to let go of things.
Mhm.
It became much easier for me after my husband passed away,
Mm.
because things are just things. And so
Mhm.
things no longer hold that importance to me that they once did. So letting go of those things, I think, is important. And it doesn't mean that you have to get a smaller house. I did not get a smaller house, but I did simplify my house. I got rid of some houses. I just didn't,
Mhm.
end up getting a smaller one. But I think you need to kind of shift your definition of what happiness is.
Mhm.
And I think we need to focus on relationships. I think we
Mhm.
need to, focus on experiences,
Mm.
um, on giving back. I think all of those are three huge things that truly will bring joy to your life.
Mhm.
I think I've mentioned before, I have incredible taste in friends.
Mhm.
Um, I know I could call them up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I need you. And I would not even have to give them a reason. They would get on a plane, a boat, a car,
Mhm.
in a car. They would get to me however they needed to get to me because I have incredible taste in friends. But
Mhm.
I work on those relationships.
Mhm.
I value those relationships. And so I think that's extremely important. Too often, people become isolated in retirement and they don't reach out to people. That can be difficult for someone who is an introvert.
Mhm.
I have daughters that are introverts, and I'm not quite sure how that happened. But yeah, I don't quite understand their point of view. They don't understand mine either. But I think they've gotten better about realizing the benefits that I have from relationships, and they're becoming better at working on those relationships. Now, they're
Mhm.
still in the career phase, they're still very hectic lives. So it is harder for young couples or young people to do that. Plus, a lot of times they're moving, they're changing careers.
Mhm.
That has an impact. You kind of become afraid to develop those relationships if there's a good chance that you're going to be moving away.
Mhm.
And I get that. In my 30s, I had dear friends that moved 4 states away. That was a
Mhm.
loss. I lost getting to see them.
Mhm.
So I understand the reluctance to do it when you're young. But as
Yeah.
you're older, hopefully you're more established and maintain, kind of a consistent place to live,
Yeah.
and you can work on those relationships.
Well, sometimes I feel like too when you are working, and I know that we've talked about on previous shows too. So for our viewers and listeners, please go check out our past shows. We touched on this a little bit about your identity sometimes being with work.
Yes,
And when your identity is no longer with your work and when you are, retiring, what do you have in common with these friends? Sometimes it's really just the commonalities that you're kind of
hmm,
missing, right? You're
yes,
you're missing the we do the same thing. We go to work at the same time. We have kids the same age or our kids are doing the same thing. What kind of relationship is there based on just you two as people rather than maybe the things that are in common?
I
And how do
agree.
you extend that?
I think it goes from a circumstance to
Yes.
actually who you are as an individual.
Yes.
And in retirement, that's when you truly get to choose those relationships because you find out that you have those common experiences, those common interests, common
Yes.
taste. And so friendships in retirement are extremely rewarding.
Mhm.
That's part of the reason I'm so blessed because I get to spend more time with them. I'm not worn out at the end of the day from teaching from early in the morning
Mhm.
till late at night. So the time that you have to develop those relationships is much more freeing than when you are, fully involved in raising a family and career.
Mhm. Well, I do wanna go back to kind of the word design, and
Yes.
I know that we want intention, we want purpose, we want goals, we want all of that for our retirement, and I think that there's a piece that is to be said for having goals in mind, having things that you want, but also being able to shift and adapt to
Yes.
when life changes. Because, as much as we do have these goals, and that's great. I mean, that's how life is, right? You
Hmm.
consistently have goals for yourself. But being able to kind of shift and adapt to maybe there is a health concern or maybe there does
Yes.
something come up, and I know I don't want to use yourself as an example here, Debbie, but losing a spouse, right? That's
Hmm.
never in your goal, but how do you shift and how do you adapt to moving forward with that,
Yes.
um and and being happy and choosing joy amongst those things that might happen to you.
I agree. Uh, Being willing to change is important.
Mhm.
Um, and I love the word design
Mhm.
because you have say in it. And
Mhm.
sometimes our life is designed for us. For example,
Yeah.
when I woke up in the morning and when I went to bed at night was designed by the career that I chose. I could
Yeah.
not be late to teach. You just can't leave
Yeah.
a room full of sixth graders by themselves. So it was designed that I had to get up early in the morning.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was designed that I had to go to bed at a reasonable hour or I was not going to have the energy to teach those children the next day.
Yeah.
So in retirement, I do have friends that have discovered that their career had them as early risers, and then
Mhm.
once they were retired, and once their body kind of acclimated to the change, they realized I don't like getting up early in the morning. And so
Mhm.
they moved to getting up later in the day and staying awake later at night. And so I have friends that are now night owls that were never allowed to do that. I mean, I say allowed, they were never given that opportunity in
Mhm.
the career that they chose. You just couldn't be a night owl and have those early hours. So,
Hey,
you
I
get
do
to
wanna
establish your routine.
yes. Well, and I do just wanna say for a quick moment here, I know several people that are in retirement that actually became night owls, and I feel
Yes,
like, people say, "Okay, when you're in retirement, I'm gonna be an early riser, you go to bed early, that's kind of the norm," right? Well, guess what? The best TV shows, they're on
or
at
at night.
10 p.m.
I
I just
agree.
have to say, the
Now,
best
now they weren't when I was growing up, but now things have changed. I agree. And then sometimes you don't even realize this is not what I enjoyed. This is
Mhm.
not when I'm at my best. Now, I tend to be an early riser. That's my morning time. I have my devotion time. That's my time
Yes.
to kind of wake up and have my coffee. So I still enjoy that time, you know, by myself. That's
Yeah.
my alone time. But I've also become much more of a night owl as well. I think you also kind of get to dictate how long you're going to sleep, and
Mm.
they recommend 6 to 8 hours.
Mhm.
However, there are some people who just don't need that much sleep. And there are
Mhm.
some who need more. You need to kind of find out what your cycle is and design your routine the way you want it.
Mhm.
I,
Well,
I think
and
that's very freeing.
yeah, well, and Debbie, you and I, we're kind of into our health as well.
Yes.
And I think health, it comes in very different forms. I mean, people
Yes, it
say
does.
your health in retirement, but choosing joy can also come from knowing your own body. And I
Yes.
think when you talk about even sleep or what you want to do, right? What is your body telling you? Is your
Hmm.
body telling you, hey, maybe we are early risers? That's when I feel the best. Or
Yes.
is it when I feel the best at night when I go to bed and I wake up late? Like, whatever it is, just be in tuned with yourself because that's essentially going to allow you to choose joy when you're not
Yeah,
so worried about your body and when you have the energy, and so just listen to yourself is a
I
little bit
agree.
of a reminder.
I agree. So far we've talked about shifting your definition of happiness,
Mhm.
and it's an intentional routine that you get to establish the way you want it. You get to design it the way you
Mhm.
want it. Definitely cultivating those relationships. Along with that, set regular dates. Go on dates with your friends.
Mhm.
And we've had some friends that have been traveling a bit more often, and I've had, man, I really miss seeing them. So, man,
Mhm.
we connected yesterday and said, okay, tomorrow we're going to establish a date. You kind of miss those connections. Join community groups, you know,
Yes.
join classes. I don't want to. I don't want you to feel like you have to go back to school. It doesn't have to be a class where I think we need to continue to engage our brains. We need to
Mhm.
continue to learn, but do something for the fun of it.
Mhm.
Um, it's going to keep your brain engaged.
Hey, I do.
Volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, even the brain engage, I've
Hmm.
heard so our Barnes& and Noble, they do puzzle competitions
Yes,
where you can just go and try to compete in a puzzle, who can get it fastest or whatever, and, that's just a fun idea, and there's so
I
many
agree.
ideas like that that you have no idea, so just find out, if you go to the
Sure,
bookstore, see what they have going on, or
I
if you go to
agree.
church, what events do they have, all sort of community groups and to keep your mind engaged, but also holding you accountable for your time too. I think
I
there's
agree.
something to be said for being there on time for something or having something on your calendar.
I have a new client, and she had lost her husband, like a year and a half ago.
Mhm,
And where she lives, it would be extremely easy for her to become isolated.
mhm,
It's it's a drive to get to go anywhere. She lives way in the mountains, and
mhm,
it's quite a trek to get to her place. And I thought I admired her so much. I met her through they asked me to come speak at a senior center around here, and she forced herself to start going and attending that. And it's given her a part-time job because she met
mhm.
someone there that she got a part-time job, so it's keeping her brain engaged, it's helping her
Wow.
financially. But it was so brave of her to do that, and
Mm,
I really admired her. It's very easy for a widow or a widower to just become so isolated and not want to go out. One of
mhm,
the most frightening things I ever did was go to dinner by myself after my husband passed away. So I
mhm,
really admire her for doing that. So centers are a great way to do that as well.
mhm,
But sometimes you have to force yourself to do the
mhm,
uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable.
mhm,
And so being willing to take a chance on that. Prioritize your well-being. We've mentioned several times health is extremely important. I will say that my age, I feel healthier than I have ever felt.
mhm,
I'm much more cognizant about what I put in my body, about the food that I am eating. I look at labels now. I look at okay, what am
mhm,
I actually consuming? So I've become much better about that. I am thoughtful about my activities.
mhm,
So if I know I have a limited amount of energy to last, I'm going to choose those activities more wisely. If I'm going to be with some friends, I don't want to have to walk 2 miles and then suddenly get there and think, okay, I don't have the energy to actually enjoy being here. So I've become pretty thoughtful about what I do. And stretching, I cannot emphasize enough that
Yes.
stretching as you get older is extremely important.
And
But
balance.
in balance, balance is
So
huge.
trying to
Yeah.
stand on one leg. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty fortunate that I'm pretty limber. I'm still pretty flexible. I tend to be kind of a klutz though, so I have to look where I'm walking. Yeah.
Me too. Hiking, when I go hiking with my girlfriends, one has to go in front of me and one has to go behind me at all times because they're like, "You are just clumsy." It's not that I'm incapable, but
I know.
just
Well,
clumsy.
if my husband wants to tease me, he grabs hold of my elbow
Yes.
like he's got me. I was like, please stop. Yeah. Although it's probably not a bad idea for him to do that. So, but uh, prioritize your well-being. It
Mhm.
will bring you joy because one of the most depressing things for people is when their health is impacted and when
Mhm.
you don't feel good and you don't feel like becoming engaged. And it's much easier to become isolated and just kind of sit in a chair with a blanket and feel sorry for yourself.
Mhm.
So, you do need to prioritize. I've been quite a few friends that pickleball or hike or, do yoga. I mean, they're pretty active group.
Mhm.
Um, Now, since I am a financial advisor, I'd be very negligent if I didn't mention achieving financial clarity,
Mhm.
because it's extremely important that you understand your finances in retirement. You
Mhm.
don't, you typically don't have the opportunities to, well, I'll just, get a part-time job and earn extra money, or,
Mhm.
I'll make this up by doing this. Although I have quite a few clients that have gone back to part-time work or doing, consultation work. Finances are extremely, extremely important in retirement. So you need to have financial clarity, which
Mhm.
is why a financial advisor is, I'm not going to say required, although it should be. It's certainly advisable.
Yes.
And personally, in retirement, I think you need to choose a financial advisor who specializes in retirement
Mm.
because retirees typically have different goals and needs than those that are younger and still fully employed.
Yeah.
I will tell you that in my younger years, when I let my husband handle all of the finances, I personally did not like to discuss finances. It stressed me out. And
Yeah.
so I avoided those conversations at all.
Mhm.
At all.
Uh-huh.
And it took its toll on me. I developed serious insomnia because my brain was dealing with it. And
Mhm.
so rather than me just being brave enough to go ahead and approach those when I was younger, I just avoided those topics altogether. I did not have financial clarity.
Well, and that's
And
that's
it
the
took its toll on
reality.
me.
Yeah, because when you're fearful or you don't know the answer or, it's kinda just, I don't wanna know the answer because I'm
Yes.
scared to know the answer, like me checking my bank account every day.
Yeah.
I don't know if I wanna check
Yeah.
that. So it turns into avoidance
Yes, it
rather
does.
than, just starting somewhere and really just being knowledgeable of knowing what you have,
I
because
agree.
that's kind of the foundation to make choices, make decisions,
Yes.
move forward. And if you got to know what you have in order to move past that. It's
Yes.
the same thing with your house, right? If you're going to
Mhm.
move and you're going to go buy a new house, don't you want to know what yours is worth? Don't you want to
Yes.
know kind of what you're, possibly going to get to kind of build up or go
Mhm.
to a bigger house? Um so it's just knowing what you have to be able to move forward and
I
that peace of
agree.
mind.
I mean, understanding your finances is huge, and a good
Mhm.
financial advisor is going to assist you with that. They're going to help you understand what your options are.
Mhm.
Um, they're going to help you set realistic goals. For
Mhm.
example, if you're limited with your income, traveling worldwide whenever you want is probably not an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why some people get in so much trouble when they first retire because man, they overspend what they actually have. Um, they don't really understand longevity, and so too many people think I'm going to be dead by then. I'm not going to live that
Mhm.
long. We are living longer. We've mentioned on
Mhm.
several podcasts that Americans are living longer lives.
Mhm.
And so we need to plan for that financially.
Mhm.
But since our theme is kind of choosing joy, one of the things that I love to advise my clients is to have a joy budget. So instead of having
Ooh.
a bucket list, have a joy budget. And so design those experiences based on one, what your budget is, and kind of plan accordingly. And I love to plan for the experiences. One thing that I do with my grandchildren that I absolutely love that we've started doing is we give them the opportunity to choose between a present or an experience for their birthdays. And so far, they're choosing experiences, which just does Gigi's heart good.
Mhm.
I love the fact that they have chosen those experiences. We're the same way in retirement. I mean, one of our Facebook memories today was our trip to Italy. And man, it brought back such a flood of wonderful emotions. And we got to
Mhm.
sit and relive some of those memories. And yeah, while we're anxious to go back, reliving those experiences was almost as good as living them through the first time, especially if you take
Mhm.
good pictures and you can have those memories to rely on. So I love the idea of having a joy budget in
Mhm.
retirement.
Yes, yes, and that also, really way to go, Debbie, because now it brings it all back into kind of a full circle here, with kind of your intention, your goals, and incorporating that with your finances and being able to
Yes.
have that joy budget, because like you said, it might be a goal of yours to go travel to different countries,
Yeah.
and putting that money into that joy bucket. And so and we've done actually an episode on financial freedom and what that
Yeah.
means for you too. And so I highly recommend for our viewers and listeners, please go check out our past podcasts. You can just search Retirement Your Way on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and of course, YouTube, where you can watch our beautiful faces and just see our excitement and really our emotion behind the scenes because we love talking about these topics. We
Yeah.
love to hear from you as the viewers and listeners and what you want to talk about or what you want to, what questions you might have. So, Debbie, anything else before we close out today?
We'd love to hear what you're saving your joy budget for.
Ooh, I like
Yeah.
that.
I
Yes,
get
I
some of
like
my
that.
best ideas from other people. So share your ideas. Share how you're planning on choosing joy in retirement.
Mhm.
We'd love to
Yes.
see that.
Perfect. Well, Debbie, please share your contact information one more time for our listeners before we leave
Okay.
today.
The best way is to contact me at 866-247-5695. Of course, you can email us. Check out our new website. It's new and improved. Of course, we also have a Facebook page, but we would love to hear from you. And I'd love to set up a free consultation with you.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you, Debbie, for what a great episode of Retirement Your Way, of course, with our host, Debbie Marcum.
Thank you.